Welcome to freedomlovin.com, where we focus on building freedom in an unfree world. Through personal development, location independence, and passive income strategies. Now here's your host, Kevin Koskela.
Welcome back to another episode of the Freedom Lovin' Podcast. Thanks for listening and welcome to all the new listeners. In just a minute, I have an interview coming up with Kavit Haria on internet business success and building a freedom business. So stay tuned for that. And a reminder about 100mustreads.com. We just added a book called Bold by Peter Diamandis. And that is one of our business book summaries. We've got over 150 business book summaries, both audio and PDF. And if you go to 100mustreads.com, you can check out what we have and you can sign up. So 100mustreads.com, appreciate the business there and hope you enjoy it. So I just got back. Last week, I had the Traffic and Conversion Conference in San Diego, and that kind of derailed me for a few days. It was Tuesday through Thursday, and it was a really great conference in a lot of ways. I learned a lot about how I'm doing things wrong online, and I learned about how to really fix what I have going currently to really maximize everything about my businesses. And so it was a worthwhile conference. It's held in San Diego every year around February, and it just happened to be like the best weather we've had in a couple months. So it was really a great time, and I got to meet up with some people that flew in from various parts of the country and from the world. And so that was really nice. Mainly, I think the last day was when I felt really inspired. So the first day I felt like, okay, I've got a lot of work to do in my business, but I'm learning a lot. The second day I felt depressed and overwhelmed and felt like there's no way I can do all this. I'm so far behind. I don't know how I'm ever going to build my business up to where I want it. But then the third day I was feeling super inspired, and I think it was because of some of this big picture stuff they were going over. So they had a talk on building teams, and even that talk seemed a little bit overwhelming because I do a lot of things myself. I have people that help me out. I have some contract workers, and mainly in the Philippines, and they do a great job, but I mostly do a lot of the work myself. I don't have teams necessarily, but I love the idea of building teams and really thinking a lot bigger. There's that book, The Magic of Thinking Big, and I think this is where I kind of thought about that when I was in this session on building teams. And I'm thinking the way I want to build things, right now, the way I'm doing things, it's not very scalable. So I do so many things myself that there's only so much time in the day, so I can only do so much, but I want to accomplish a lot. So the best way to do that is to outsource. Well, I've outsourced some things, and that really does help, but I don't have teams. So my initial thought is, okay, so the company that was putting on Traffic and Conversion, Digital Marketer, they've really grown a lot in the past couple of years, 2-3 years. And now they are a business and they're actually offering certification programs. So like if you want to be certified in email marketing or SEO or pay-per-click advertising or something like that, they have a program for all that stuff. And so what's really cool is, they've been able to build out all their teams. So Ryan Dice is kind of the main character there, and he doesn't do nearly as much as he used to. So he's got teams that handle a lot of the content, a lot of the pay-per-click stuff, all the Facebook ads, things like that, where he used to do all that himself. So, and that's cool. They have a business there in Austin, Texas, and they've got all these employees, and that seems to be working well for them. But I'm thinking in terms of what I want to do, and what I think a lot of listeners here would be more appropriate. What would be more appropriate is to build teams that you can actually afford to hire people out, at this point. So, it's a lot more affordable to do this in the Philippines. And that's where I think the direction that I'm headed is to try to build the teams in the Philippines. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I've got this kind of idea. I've got a friend over there who was on the podcast probably 2 years ago. And his name is Joseph Kiss. And we're going to talk today about, he runs an agency there basically an employment agency in the Philippines. And so I'm going to talk to him about what my goals are and what we can do together. And I would like to take a trip out there. I've never been to the Philippines, and it sounds like just a really nice place. And I was told, though, it gets really hot around March and April. So I don't know, maybe it's better in the summer, but I would think it's probably hot year round. So it's no matter what, coming from San Diego, where it's pretty, other than our little bit of heat waves usually in August, September, we don't get too much heat here. It's usually pretty much, 70 degrees or 75 degrees or so Fahrenheit. So anyway, that's about it there. So if anyone has any knowledge of the Philippines, I would love to hear about it and what you recommend there. And I'm still considering how I can get there. One of the difficult things is not many airlines go to the Philippines. I mean, you can take several stops and get there, but it's kind of tough to find airlines that go there. And especially when I'm trying to use my airline points or my credit card points to pay for the flights, and that becomes really difficult. So it's easy to go to like Tokyo or Bangkok or some of the bigger cities, but Manila just doesn't have that many flights going in. So if anyone knows anything about that, like what the best place to go is, the best places to go and visit, I would love to hear from you. So one last thing before I get to the interview, I'm working on a course. I'm just starting to work on a course geared towards digital nomads or people who want to be location independent in their work. So I'm in the early stages of it. I'd love to hear from anyone that is interested in that kind of thing. We have a Facebook group if you are interested, and it's called Freedom, Love, and Quest. So if you want to join that on Facebook, I would love to have you in there. But, it's basically a course that's going to be about traveling as you work on your business and how you can do that, what the most effective ways are, and all the things that I've learned doing it, and also what other people that I know have learned, and some of the tips out there, some of the things that you really need to know, and some of the ways that you can get started, and also mainly to make it easier, because it is not that easy to start an internet business. But now we have so many tools that allow it to be a lot easier. And I want to cover a lot of that in the course. So I'll have more information on that coming up in a future podcast. So that's about it. I hope you enjoy my interview with Kavit Haria on internet business success and freedom businesses. Go out there and build some freedom. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. Well, I'm really excited to have Kavit Haria on the show today. Kavit is an entrepreneur who helps others go from making $0 to $100,000 a year online in their first year. And in addition to running his own successful internet companies, Kavit has worked with clients of all sizes in pretty much every industry, getting results in some of the most competitive online niches. He's also a tablet player and worked his way up to being able to play with the likes of Paul McCartney and Jimmy Page. And his website is insiderinternetsuccess.com. Kavit, welcome to Freedom Lovin'.
Oh, thanks for having me, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm a huge Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin fan. And so I love that you're a tablet player. I actually went to see Page Plant in like 1998, I think. And they were,
wow.
So that was pretty cool to read about. Now, you actually met Jimmy Page and you actually got to play with him.
Yeah. So it was at the Royal Albert Hall in London, which is a beautiful, very old venue. And this is an interesting story how I met him, because I was in a musician's canteen, which is underground essentially. Maybe a couple of hours before the concert goes, you have to do a sound test, and then you have a few hours to just wait until everyone finishes. It was a massive concert, so it was like a huge contemporary orchestra with a tabla sitar with the singers, and then guest appearances and Jimmy Page and so forth. So there's lots of different elements to it. And I was in the canteen having something to eat for dinner before the concert, and I was the only one there because it was very early and I was the first sound test. And so after a little while, this guy comes along and he sits on the same table as me, because we were the only two people there, and starts up a conversation with me. And then I realized, it just dawned on me that, hey, what the hell, this is Jimmy Page right here I'm talking to. And we ended up having a conversation and about what we do. At that time, I also did this internet stuff, so I would tell him about that, and we would connect about that. We would connect about music, and within a couple of weeks, I had the opportunity to go and practice with him, and he wanted to try a few things out, and we went from there.
Cool. So for people that don't know, what is a tabla?
It's a drum that originates in North India, It is a percussion instrument. You know the bongos and congos and djembes, you play with them with your palm.
Right.
At the tabla, you actually play intricately with your fingers, so it's slightly different, a lot more complicated. And it's said that if you can play the tabla, you can play any other drum that exists in the world. So that's what I play. But, of course, in the majority of the time, all tabla players generally play Indian music because that's what it's made to do.
Yeah.
But I was always intrigued about, growing up in London, I was always listening to Western music and pop and rock, R&B, jazz, hip-hop. I listened to all kinds of different things, and I always wanted to try to fuse my Eastern music with the Western flavor and see what I could come up with.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. So what is your background? Where did you grow up? You grew up in London?
I was born in London, and then I grew up the first 11 years of my life in Lagos, Nigeria. And that was because my dad runs a timber business, and so a lot of his business was established there. After a while, I went to an American school there for a short amount of time, and then I went to a British school there as well. So some of my accent comes from there.
Yeah, I was going to say I detect an American accent and a little bit of a British accent.
Yeah, so that's where it comes from. And then I moved to London and continued my education. I went to university. I studied genetics for 3 years. Mm-hmm. That was something that fascinated me. And while I was there, I was also improving and growing my music career, which then led me to start teaching other musicians how they could promote themselves, because I had a great career in a short space of time, hustling and trying to get gigs and, promoting my music and building my online fan bases. And I was asked actually initially, and then I got into the idea of wanting to share this stuff more openly. How was I getting gigs? How was I promoting my music? How was I selling those CDs? And that's what I started to share with people more regularly, more often online, which is how I started my very first internet company, which was insidermusicbusiness.com.
Yeah. So were you looking at that time, like you were getting paid for your gigs, right? So then you were basically bringing that experience online and teaching others?
Yeah, essentially, I was getting paid for two things as a musician. I was getting paid for every performance I did. I was also getting paid for the CDs that I recorded. So the time that I was there for the recording, and also the time that the CD sold, if I had a royalty on that album.
Right.
So I would teach musicians how they could get more gigs, because every single one of them is stuck with the number of gigs they can get, and they never seem to just push beyond. I also taught musicians how they could promote them online, because I built this massive MySpace. MySpace was great for musicians at the time, so I taught how to do that.
Yeah.
I taught how they could leverage some of their work and their skills to teach others and also earn money effectively as musicians. Ultimately, musicians wanted to quit their day job, and so I was quite involved in that kind of stuff.
So you were teaching them like live in person at first?
No, so initially I wrote an ebook, and then I ended up writing 5 ebooks, and every single ebook would sell for $20 on our website. After that, I started to create CDs, DVD programs, coaching programs, membership sites. I did a few workshops live, but generally all of my stuff was info product based, so people could buy from anywhere in the world, study it online, and get the knowledge that they needed to achieve the goals that they wanted.
Yeah, cool. And yeah, it sounds, I have a very similar background with you. It sounds like you were around back when you could sell ebooks and really make a full-time income.
I started in 2005, that's when things were really kicking off at that time.
Yeah, and things have changed quite a bit since then. So how soon was it from the time you started to when you were able to make a full-time income?
I think it took about 3 years until I really figured out what I was doing. I didn't have any money to invest, so I learned everything myself. I went to the library, I studied everything I could about creating websites. There was no such thing as word pages or lead pages or any of those tools that, from what I remember. And I remember using Dreamweaver and learning how to write HTML and CSS code to build my website. So wow. I was from that era, I feel like. And I learned all of those things. I created websites. I learned how to capture email addresses. I learned email marketing. I learned marketing automation. Actually, it was when I learned marketing automation and the ability to build a good enough relationship and be smart enough to learn what it is that people want and then deliver to them what it is they want, that I started to really turn the heat up on how things were going. And that's around the 3-year point when things started to go full-time. I went full-time initially. Yeah. So, I didn't earn enough income to be full-time, but I'd just gone full-time after about 2 years. So I suffered a little bit in that second year, I guess, is what I'm saying. But in the third year is when I had enough income that I realized that I was actually full-time. And the key was just being able to discover what people really want. And it's just really as simple as that. But then doing that online in a way that is automated and they get it.
Did you do surveys, just talk to people in person, or?
surveys was a big part and is a big part. I mean, like right now in my current company, we probably collect at least 40,000 pieces of information from people throughout their lifetime of their journey with us, just to try and really dig deep and figure out what it is that they want. If I believe that if we can get as much information as we want about somebody and interact with them very much personally on a basis that truly connects with them, we're able to serve them better.
Right.
So surveys is a big part of it. But so is just the fact of watching and listening to what people are clicking in their email. I mean, if they're clicking to go read an article about a specific type of songwriting thing, then we'll serve them up more songwriting stuff.
Right.
And if they're clicking to do with, specific social media related stuff, we'll give them social media related content. And it really just was about listening to what they are saying, but also being able to say, let's segment our things, and let's also get rid of people that don't want stuff from us. So we have to be able to balance all of those things.
Right. Now let's go back to you're building your business. So I'm wondering were there any periods of time where you had some fears building up and you thought you might want to quit or do something different?
Oh, all the time. And I think that it's an interesting thing, because every single time that something difficult happens, that thought comes up that actually I could probably do something. First of all, the thought is, why do I have to go through so much stress being an entrepreneur? And then the second thought is, actually, I make a lot more than most people would ever make, and even I would ever make if I was in a job. Mm-hmm. And I have so much more time flexibility doing the things that I get to do all year round, mostly traveling, and being able to do it whenever I want on my own terms, and I set my own schedule. And so those thoughts balance my first thought out. But the stress of quitting happens when you have to make important decisions about which way you go with your money, essentially. Like, do you spend your money on this, or do you spend it on that? Or do you put your time on this, or do you put your time on that? Or do you keep this client, or do you fire the client? And all of these things give you moments of anxiety because you feel uncomfortable. When you feel uncomfortable, something's not right.
Yeah. So it sounds like what was motivating you was kind of more the freedom versus having to go in, kind of take away that freedom and having to go work for someone else.
Oh, yeah. It's scary. I mean, it's scary to think of what would happen if I lose the freedom that I have right now. Yeah. So I always return to that every time I think of giving. I don't think about it too much, but I definitely think that if ever I think about giving up, then the fear of giving up is a lot more hurtful, I guess, or deterring than the fear of actually keeping things a little more simpler. The other thing is that, I mean, I'm motivated by freedom, but I'm also motivated by the incredible transformation that we bring to people's lives.
Right.
Just by helping them either become better musicians or, and from what I do right now, which is helping people take their ideas and build meaningful transformational businesses on the web. And just to see people being able to earn money, travel the world, do things they're happy with, and also make a difference and be so passionate about their work that they're always wanting to work on it. That level of transformational power that we bring is really motivating. Like, I would not give that up for anything else right now.
Yeah, definitely, because you're helping others to bring freedom into their lives, and it really is amazing. Now, what kinds of people do you work with typically with Insider Internet Success?
So our main program is called Automated Business System, and essentially what we do is over 12 months we work with people that have skills, talents, hobbies, passions, interests, ideas, products, services, etc., that they feel can really truly make a difference to a market out there. And so we help them create the right business strategy, the right structure, the right processes of how to get the information out there, how to sell it, how to structure it, how to package it, etc. And then once we build all that clarity, then we actually go ahead and actually build and do the work for them. So we do all the design, development, implementation, email copy, sales copy, integrating everything, webinars, design, everything that's required to actually get them up in 2 months, a very fully functioning website and business that's ready to take orders. And then we coach them through the whole rest of the year to get them up to what I like to think of our goal is $100,000 per year for every business. Mm-hmm. So that's the process. And then the type of people that come in really are, first of all, they meet the criteria of having some sort of skill, talent, idea. But second, I found that every single one of these people are after freedom in two ways. They're either after freedom because they are there might be in great careers where they're earning great money, but their career demands so much of them that they don't have enough time, energy to do the things that they love. So they want to replace that. Mm-hmm. And then that's the first kind. And the second kind is somebody who has left a business or left a job and is looking for a new challenge to share and do something more valuable. And then the overriding thing is that all these people just want more freedom. I mean, they want to be able to travel. They want to do things that they find are passionate to them. They want to do things that are going to add value for other human beings in this world. And I find that very, very, very exciting to be a part of.
Yeah. So can you give a couple examples of people that you've worked with that have done this?
Sure. So let's start. So there's a lady called Melinda, and she runs a business called Women Making Big Sales. And her job is, in her career, she's worked as an extremely successful sales consultant and sales person, closing extremely big deals in very, very many multinational companies. And what she's found is that there are so many small business owners that are females specifically that are struggling to close big deals, either because they feel like it's a man's job or they're pressurized or they don't know how to do it very well. Right. And so she's put a program specifically for female and teaching them how to close bigger deals, because if they close bigger deals, and that could be a longer term deal, or it could be a bigger amount deal, or it could be both, they'll be a lot more freer in their lives, able to focus on their work, able to serve their families, and able to ultimately be more happier. Mm-hmm. So she's put together a 5-week course with various different upsell and opportunities in that course. She runs a free webinar. The webinar is completely automated. We designed and put together the whole thing with her. It runs every day. She advertises. She appears on podcasts. She does blogging. She gives some great advice. She's on social media. She's driving as much traffic as she can to her website and her webinar. People watch her webinar. They have the opportunity to have a free sales strategy session with Melinda herself. Melinda talks to them, gives them advice, of course, and if it's a good fit, she'll talk about her program, and if not, she'll leave it. That's a complete automated sales funnel with emails, with the webinar, with all the pre-selling done. So all she has to do is give her value and teach her information. Mm-hmm. As soon as somebody becomes a customer, they start receiving the course. And the course and all of that is automated, and Melinda gives her advice when she jumps on her calls regularly on a regular basis. So that's one example. She can do that anywhere in the world. Right now, she just emailed me today, actually, and she's been traveling recently in Asia, and she's able to do this anywhere she goes, and she's able to log into the internet and keep working on her business. She's what I would call a coach in many ways. She could be a sales coach, a career coach, a life coach, a motivational coach, a business coach, an executive coach. We have all those kind of people that are coaches, but we also have the complete other spectrum, which is people that are doing other kind of things. So, for example, one couple from San Francisco love dogs, and they are building, and they have been building, and are now selling a supplement for dogs so dog owners essentially buy the supplement to help the dog relieve their hip and joint pains. And they have a subscription business going for that. So there's a spectrum of different types of people that do this. And really, anybody that's motivated to do something meaningful, passionate, and powerful, it's for them.
Oh, that is so cool. Their niche is a supplement for hip pain for dogs. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so hip and joint relief for dogs is what the supplement is called, which says exactly what it is.
And they just developed that themselves?
Yeah, I mean, they found the product, and of course, they partnered with a manufacturer.
Okay.
And now they are labeling that and selling it very well.
Wow, that is awesome. Yeah, your whole service is something that I wish I would have had when I started, because I spent way too long trying to figure all this stuff out. And it sounds like what you guys do there is you just implement everything all the pain in the ass stuff, right? All the stuff that the person that has the idea, that just wants to get it out there to people, they don't want to spend all their time building all these funnels and having to set up and having to figure out what webinar software to use and how to do like the payment system and all that. And that's where you come in, right?
Right, exactly. And that's exactly why I think it works very well, because first of all, the cost of inaction is really high. The price of discipline is a lot less than the cost of regret or the price of regret. Yeah. So people sometimes have these ideas and they just never fall through, and then they regret it. And then the other thing is that it's just takes so long to, first of all, figure out how a business should be structured if you've never done it before, or what sales funnel works the best, or what flow works the best to get more people to buy. If you've never done that before, like to me, it sounds quite straightforward because I do it all the time. But if you've never done that before, it can be really difficult. Yeah. And clarity always precedes mastery. It's just a rule of life. So if you want to achieve the greatest business success, if you want to achieve the greatest financial success, you have to have as much clarity as you can as possible. The more clarity you have, the more likely it is that you'll have confidence, courage, and certainty. That's the 4 C's. And the other thing about clarity is that the more that you're inspired to bring your vision to the world, first of all, that requires clarity, but the more you are inspired to bring your vision to the world, the more inspired the world is to receive it. So all of these things work together, I think, very well. And the fact that people can spend a hell of a lot less time on studying and just learning what really is required and focusing and zoning in on the things that's required and getting rid of and eradicating overwhelm, I think makes this thing quite popular. And that's why I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. And can you give just a few other things or anything else you can think of that somebody that wants to build like a freedom business, what should they know like going into it?
The first thing is that it takes time and it takes commitment. Like it's not something that will happen overnight. No, I don't believe there is anything that can happen overnight that can give you a freedom business. But I think that if you're extremely passionate and have some purpose around something that you want to share, like there's a reason you want to share it. It could be a product, service, you have a skill, you have a talent, then pursue it. Like you'll never know whether it's going to be successful until you kick off. And you'll never know until you kick off, which is the whole idea. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it requires commitment. Like there's no way you can build a business without commitment. You have to be able to have dedication, commitment, and follow one path. Whatever it is that you sit down to build a business around, have that idea, focus on that idea, and push it through. And like stick at it. Like be completely, totally, transparently committed. Because if you are, then you will achieve what it is that you set out to do. And even if you're totally committed and you don't achieve it, you'll find out how to change course, change path in order to get to your goal. People that aren't committed enough and give up at the first hurdle get sucked into all kinds of different shiny objects.
Yeah.
There's a great story about, if I can share, there's a great story about a Buddhist monk. And he would say that, the thing about monks is they stay in a specific area for a while in a monastery or in a specific forest, perhaps, and then they want to travel to a new place. And he tells a story to a different monk about what monks do is that they travel around with a backpack full of dog crap. And this is what we all are like, because what will happen is we'll travel to a new city and we'll love the absolutely new city and we'll enjoy it. We'll take all the fresh air, the breath in, take the views and be complete. And after a few days, we start getting that smell of dog crap because it's the smell that we've been carrying in our backpack all this time. And it's such a great story because it reminds me of this whole shiny object syndrome. We see something, we love the idea of someone making great amount of money on Facebook pages, and we go follow that trend. Or we see somebody making some great money on webinars, and we go follow that trend. Or we see somebody making some great money on, affiliate marketing or whatever it is, and we go follow that trend. After a few days of trying it, we start getting that dog crap come up again. That, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And really, what is it? I mean, it's your own mindset telling you things about yourself that you already knew, but you're trying to just hide and run from because of what's going on. And that's why I think when somebody is completely, first of all, clarity precedes mastery. So when somebody has a deep sense of clarity about what it is that they're doing, they start to build certainty. When you build certainty, your certainty is only exceeding your doubt. There's nothing else. I mean, the more certainty you have, the less doubt you have. The more doubt you have, the less certainty you have. And so the more certainty you build out of clarity means that you'll never be able to get that dog crap to start to pop out again. Then you can be more focused on what it is that you need to do. You don't have to worry about shiny objects, and you get to the end result.
Yeah. The beautiful thing about business and entrepreneurship is you kind of have to deal with all that. You have to deal with your shit, right?
Yeah.
And it forces you to become a better person or to become the person that is capable of doing the things that you want to do. Sometimes going for those shiny objects, it highlights that, and you can, then you have to get over those things. I know I've definitely done that in the past where I've gone down paths where it may be months and then I'm going, okay, this is totally not working. And then it's tough to make that decision too, to go back and say, okay, what is working? What is it that I want to do? Yeah. So that's a really good one.
The interesting thing about that, I'll just add two more things very quickly because of what you said. And the thing is that as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, we have to face all these things on our own. But what's really exciting is that every single thing we do leads us to the top of the mountain. Like every single thing we do. And so if our daily behaviors and our daily actions and our daily exercises and activities are leading us to the mountaintop, should we focus on the mountaintop or should we focus on the daily behaviors? I think both. I think we should got to have the view of the mountaintop of where we want to take this business, but really the joy and the happiness is in the progressive realization that things are moving forward. And so the more clear that we can get about what we want to create, that mountaintop, then the more focused that we become on our behaviors. Yeah. So we then become more purposeful, we become more actionable, we move towards getting things done. Now, this, by the way, is also the strategy and the secret for creating a workday that is only 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours. Mm-hmm. Because the moment you sit down to say, this is my goal, this is my view, this is where I want to go, and therefore I can be more focused on my daily behaviors, you squash everything into 3 or 4 hours. Parkinson's law is that whatever time you give for something, is as much time as it really takes to get that thing done. So if you have to write a blog post and you give yourself 6 hours, or you give yourself 2 hours, you'll get it done. It's up to you to choose how long you want to do it for. So why choose to spend 6 hours in a blog post when you could spend 2 if you're really focused on that because of the clarity that you've received? The second thing really is that if you are not every day creating and using every day as a platform to get you closer to that mountaintop, then if you're not doing that, then what are you doing? Then essentially you're living each day by accident.
Yeah.
And why live each day by accident when what we're doing here is to create a freedom-loving business?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it reminds me, I when I was first starting my internet business, I was working 2 part-time jobs, and I was so productive in building. I wrote a book in I think it was 2 months. I got a book written and I got my website all done and I had a sales page, and all this happened in a short period of time. And then I ended up quitting those part-time jobs, and I found that I became less productive because I didn't have that. I only had about 2 hours a day at that time to work on my businesses. And then I had all day, and it's I could make those 2 hours become 8 hours pretty easily. But you're right. It's all about being purposeful and having the big picture in mind while you also are accomplishing the little things in the checklist and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and okay, so as far as your program goes, can you give an idea, a ballpark idea of the cost, what someone might be paying?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, we're charging $22,000. That's a whole 12 months worth of strategy work, all of the implementations. You don't have to hire anybody on your own or even learn how to get it done, and you speed through all of that learning curve, and a whole 10 months worth of marketing support week on week to push you to a goal of $100,000 in a year.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good trade, 22,000 for 100,000.
Yeah, exactly. That's how most people see it. Exactly.
Yeah, cool. So now I know you're a big reader. Do you have some books that you would recommend people that want more freedom? Because that's what I talk about here is freedom, building businesses. What would you recommend? A couple books that you've read?
Yeah, sure. I read lots of different types of things. So for business, I would recommend the first book that somebody reads, which is quite traditional, but will really set you up for understanding some critical foundational principles that have made me very successful. And I think the book is called it's called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. Getting Everything You Can Out of All You Got by Jay Abraham.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really great book. I also read a lot of other different things. So I read spirituality. I read The Power of Thought and understanding how the mind works and consumer psychology. So I'll throw in 2 more. One of them that I think you should read is a book called Slowing Down to the Speed of Life.
Yep.
By Richard Carlson. I think that's a great book.
Yeah,
He's also the author of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
Yep. I read that book years ago. It's a great book.
Yeah. And I like it. I like it a lot. And the other one I think that you should read is more of a story, but also a true factual story that really is very inspiring. And it's called The 40 Rules of Love.
40 Rules of Love.
Love by Elif Shafak.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great.
There's some variety there that I think that people might not have read, but I think will be some of the most hidden books in the world are some of the gems of the world. And I think that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had, years ago, I read a book that I kind of based this podcast around. It's called How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World. And when I went to go buy that book, there were very few copies available. And I was looking on Amazon, and the price was $80. It's just a regular sized book. It's maybe 300 pages. But it was $80 because not many people are even aware of it. So now you can get it online you can get an ebook. But back then it was this rare thing and not a common book that people recommend. So
yeah.
So what are your kind of big picture goals with what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I'm looking to inspire a lot more people to build this freedom business. I think I have a great model here, a wonderful team. Things are shaping out nicely. We've done over 150 different businesses to this date, and I think we have a lot more that we can do. That's for sure. That's one big part of what I'm doing. The second part of that, so it's a great question. And the second part of it, I think, is trying to align with a charitable initiative, I guess, to support a lot of potential entrepreneurs in lesser developing countries that are not yet, they just don't have the access to the resources that I think that if they had, would allow them to truly grow into flourishing little societies. I'm just looking for ways to do that and how I could do that so that later on in 2016, I think that the door opens to a lot of different opportunities. So I'm always welcome to hearing stuff about stuff like this.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. All right. Well, that's about all I had. I really enjoyed chatting, Kavit, and I really respect what you're doing. I think you're doing the world a lot of good, and you're helping a lot of people. And I think I hope you just keep kicking butt over there. And again, it's insiderinternetsuccess.com. If someone wants to get a hold of you, should they just go to your website? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Insiderinternetsuccess.com, and you can check out lots of different success stories just to find some more inspiration for yourself. And also, if you want to get on the phone and talk for 30 minutes with our business coach, Adam, you're most welcome to do that. Get in touch, and we'll offer a 30-minute call for anybody who's listening who wants to just discuss their ideas and get some insight.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, I think that would be totally worth it for anyone that's even considering doing something like this. So, cool.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on, man, and good luck with all that you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Oh, cool.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Freedom Lovin' Podcast. To break free today, head on over to freedomlovin.com and download our free guide. 7 practical tips to living free in an unfree world.